So how did you end up landing your first video game composing gig? How did that come about?
Well, through knowing someone who knew someone who knew someone, of course.
Oh, how weird.
Yeah. Back in the day, games weren't as sought after as they are now. And I had made networking inroads in North Carolina, and even though I'd only been gone for 2 years and I grew up there, all the people in production thought that I was this LA orchestra composer who had moved to North Carolina. Like, wow, what are you doing here? Like, I grew up here. So a friend of mine's friend, had a friend in Australia who was working at a company that was doing the game for the King Arthur film. And in typical video game fashion, it was like 6 weeks before they had to wrap everything up, and they said, oh yeah, we never figured out what we were going to do with the music, because they assumed they were going to be using the film music. And and my contact was like, I know a guy that does orchestra stuff, and I had been writing away, I would say hacking, but that sounds bad, writing away in my own time, working on my template. Back then it was just a little EMU EX4 emulator. I had 128 megabytes of RAM for my whole orchestra.
Pretty nice.
But I was working on the reverb and, like doing my own versions of Princess Leia's theme and things that, different theme, different chord progression, but same orchestration. So once I had to start writing for that, I was ready to go immediately. And the first thing they had me do was mock up Hans's theme, which he played for me over the telephone. It's like, sure, here it is. I was like, crap, I better record it. So I did that, but then they found out they couldn't afford it. So I had 60 minutes of music to do in about 3 weeks, which is how the template was ready. And I went from like a Honda commercial where we'd spend 10 weeks on a 30-second spot, where it's literally like version 65, and you don't even have the job yet because ad agencies are having different music companies do it, to doing 60 minutes in 3 weeks, and they had no corrections. And it was sort of like the clouds parted, like, video games are cool.
Yeah.
I can write a lot of really fun music in a short period of time, and I'm going to try to do more of these. I do a lot of games, so a lot of times with games especially, the coolest thing I think about them is I have yet to find a developer who doesn't want a unique score. They want, even if they just want orchestra, they want to be able, it's the usual, like, we want people to hear 5 seconds of our music and know what the game is, which is a bit of a challenge, to say the least. So a lot of times for me, it's what instruments am I highlighting, what instruments especially am I not using. So if you're talking about something like Tomb Raider, which I worked on in 2012, I think, they wanted a new theme. So I started on the piano. And it was all about getting the theme done, which for me, if I'm starting on a theme, I always start on the piano, just because it's simple and it's easy for me to kind of figure it out. And I figure if I can play it on the piano, since I'm not a great keyboard player, it's a fairly easy to absorb theme. If it's something like Far Cry Primal, which came out last year, that was all really textures and things like that. So I started at the hardware shop, which was buying rocks and stones and bags of dirt and stuff like that, and experimenting with recording techniques and microphones. Or maybe it's something like Dead Space, which was a complete different thing, and started with pencil sketches and us talking about ideas, because we had to record the samples before we could even start doing the music. Just for a little bit of a background, before we did the orchestra sessions, EA had, they had people do demos and things like that, and they couldn't find what they wanted. And they really wanted to hire Chris Young because he had done, I don't remember what by then, maybe Exorcism of Emily Rose or something.
Okay.
But everyone was actually pushing for like a heavy metal goth kind of score. Like a bad version of what Mick did for Doom last year. Like a really bad version of that is kind of what they were playing. And the audio director, who had been around forever, and this is why I love the idea of relationships, shielded me from all that stuff and basically just said, I need you to write like the scariest music that anyone has ever heard. And he didn't say orchestra or metal. I had no idea the genre, but I leaned towards orchestra because I knew about Penderecki, and I'd seen The Shining, and that freaked me out completely, so I figured maybe I could do something like that. And my pitch was, we can get it done, but this is in 1996. There was only, I think, Symphobia hadn't even come out yet. It was like East-West Orchestra, that's what I meant, 2006. They had like a couple of little aleatoric snippets with the strings, and that was it. Oh. And I said to the audio director, if you want, and they wanted 4 layers of interactivity. I said, if you want to have that, you're literally going to have to blow your entire live budget ahead of time, basically do a sampling session, and then give me like months upon months to cut it up and build instruments and write music from it. And I was saying this in a, that's never going to happen, so let's figure out another way to do it. And he just went, let's do that. And it was like, you guys have to try this if you need any sort of scary stuff. I love Marco Beltrami. I mean, his stuff just really turns me on. And we did just 4 notes, all the high strings, violins and violas, just playing X's. Literally that fast. I think it was 4 independent pitches, 2 dynamics, and then the low strings. But they were playing this kind of unknown cluster.
Yeah, crunchy cluster.
And I took it all back and I cut them up and just did 4 round robin, and all the strings you hear and all that ding 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 ding. Those are just those 4 round robin, 2 dynamic level. It was sort of the first thing I edited because I was excited to try it, and I was going. It sounds just like Marco Beltrami. It sounds like a film score. Yeah, that's what I sent. That's what I sent Paul.
That's what I got.
Random, notated, yeah.
And somehow that would turn into 30 pages of score.
It really would. Like this page turned out to be, it was about 20 minutes of music, 4 different cues, because there's 4 different kind of staves there. And, they'd go, room, so you'd have this great, when I was just looking at all the, Penderecki, and the more I studied it, I studied all of his pieces. Then I started looking at Alien or Close Encounters or Christopher Young, and you just see Penderecki everywhere. So there's this certain language that, ambiguously harmonic language that makes people scared.
Yeah.
I didn't want a melody. I didn't want a tonal center. I wanted everyone to feel off kilter. So all I really had was rhythm. So basically, I'm just like Neil Peart, playing the orchestra with my drum, and just having the strings do it, and having the brass kind of accent a little bit, and the violins or the hi-hat, and the basses and the cellos or the kick drum, and that's how I wrote the whole thing. And I thought that was my weakest, like that was the dent in my armor, because I was a drummer. I didn't play any instruments in the orchestra. I could play vibes and stuff, but I saw it as a weak link, and I studied orchestration. I mean, I bought every John Williams signature series. I studied the Holst backwards and forwards. Wow. That's one thing I'm actually a big fan of that I've done ever since the first Dead Space, is I do at least 2 recording sessions, if possible, because inevitably, especially with the game, things change or things aren't online yet, and I can't see what they're supposed to be, and rather than waiting till the last minute and going, let's do 2 hours of music, do an hour up front, do an hour on the back end. Until Dawn, I did 3 recording sessions, and with that was the first time Sony had done that, and they said that they want to do that from now on, so I was kind of